And we're so glad that you're watching EWTN television, but especially glad to have you once again on another episode of The Catholic View for Women, where we give you news and views from a truly Catholic perspective. I'm Teresa Tomeo, along with the lovely Astrid Bennett Gutierrez from the Vita Initiative and Janet Morana from Priests for Life, the program Defending Life, which has been showing for many years on EWTN, and also the Silent No More Awareness Campaign. And ladies, we can't forget to give a shout out to our pastoral advisor, Father Frank Pavone.
That's right.
This is a really great topic because I'm sure you're speakers, I'm a speaker. When we go out on the road, people ask us, a lot of people say to me, wow, you really like being Catholic and you have fun and you're like normal.
Yeah. Right.
Like, how do you do that? Because they have this image, I think, sometimes that we have to walk around in sackcloth and ashes and, oh, woe is me, and being Catholic or Christian is such a... But that's not it. There is a way to be in the world, not of the world.
That's right.
And being angry with the culture instead of saying, let's take the opportunity when we see something happening in the world to be a light, as opposed to being always combative. You know, we definitely want to fight evil, but you do it by being a good witness and showing your joy so that it becomes something attractive to others. So our episode today will be just about that. It's about how to live a vibrant, fruitful, faithful Catholic life without being taken in by the culture that is always calling us now more than ever with internet and so many things that are, even passively, we begin to accept.
Yeah. Right. Well, in particular, I know based on our viewer response, the emails we get from our viewers, a lot of the moms are concerned about our teenage daughters. You know, how, as much as they're trying to teach them the right thing, tell them all the right things, how do I protect them, so to speak, from all this mass media and things that come at them? How do I protect my daughters so that they will come out at the other side being good Catholic girls, chaste and really embracing that lifestyle and wanting, as much as you could tell them this is what you're supposed to do, but then getting them through those years that they end up coming out on the other side of it all okay is another thing.
Yes, and by the grace of God, it is possible. But again, as we said in our previous episode, it's the parents being fully involved in the lives of their children, using the culture, to educate, choosing their schooling wisely, being involved. And we had the chance in California to meet a wonderful young lady. Her name is Timmerie Millington. She's just a wonderful example of exactly how it is possible. And she grew up in California. I've known her since she was a teenager, and now to see her blossom into this incredible young lady. She went to John Paul the Great University in San Diego, and she's a wonderful Catholic speaker. So she really talks about true femininity, what it means, and so we had a chance to chat with her because she was
we were in California. And she also was homeschooled, and then went away to college. And I remember, like most parents, that's when they get very fearful. Like, I've homeschooled her. Okay, I got her this far. Now she's going off to college, so we should see what Timmerie said about that.
I come from a family of 4 children, and I was homeschooled. I'm the oldest of 4, and over the years it's been really interesting because being homeschooled for me, a lot of people say, oh, you're that weird homeschooled kid. I remember when I first went to college, there was this question of, are you homeschooled or are you not homeschooled? And everyone would try to guess. But I spent my entire life being homeschooled all the way through high school, and it was really, I think, a blessing for me. Some people, have different experiences where they're a little bit more sheltered. Other people have experiences where they're maybe more involved in the world. For me, I danced pretty much from the age of 3 on. I also taught dance in high school, and I danced with a Russian ballet company in Washington, D.C. for a summer when I was in my teen years. And so for me, it wasn't that I was completely sheltered and I had no interaction with the culture, that I couldn't socialize with people of my own age. Homeschooling was really a blessing because it brought tremendous formation for me as an individual. It was also very challenging at times because I remember when I was about 13 years old, right in that middle school going into high school age, my 2 closest friends, one very quickly got very involved in the drug culture where I grew up, and another kind of turned more so to her body and how she could please men, and at a very young age, and over years she kind of turned into that Barbie type of girl. And my friend who became heavily involved in drugs and alcohol over the years ended up going away to college. And I remember just watching on social media as the years went on, seeing how she would then have posts where she'd be at a different party, wake up drunk, wake up in someone's bed, having slept with someone, it's so sad to see years later she actually struggles with same-sex attraction and is a huge advocate for that community. But for me, at the time, being 13 years old, I remember it was very alienating for me not to be involved in that community, for me to kind of start to be like, oh, I don't want to go to this party, or I don't want to participate in what's taking place. And, you know, I feel like a lot of the times when you're different, people make fun of you. And for me, it led me into a very severe depression in a sense. I also had some health problems at the same time. And I think, you know, when your happiness declines a little bit, you're a little more susceptible health-wise. And it was, for me, really kind of turning my parents, you know, especially my mom being there and encouraging me to reach deeper into my faith and find peace in no matter what the situation is, but also really getting involved in the pro-life movement. I had grown up kind of alongside with my mom, who was very involved really since I was born in pro-life work, both on a state and national level. And so part of my education, being homeschooled, was also watching my mom work, watching the involvement on social issues. So my education was broader than just, say, math, science, and so forth, but it also reached a different social level. And for me to kind of be a part of something when I was struggling through a depression at 13 years old, we can become so emotional, hormonal. You know, my generation is called the I generation. And my mom really pushed me, you know, you have to step outside of yourself. And that's where becoming involved in the pro-life work really gave me a mission, something to believe in, to be a part of, and also growing very close to the sacraments. I was kind of that anomaly kid who, when I got my driver's license at 16, the first thing I wanted to do was go to daily mass. And I think God really did have his protective hand over me, but it was also the formation of being alongside my parents growing up, having that solid education that focused on thinking versus maybe more so indoctrination. I danced all the way up until college, but, you know, being with the Kirov in Washington, D.C., you know, you're away from home, you're among a lot of other girls the same age who have maybe never been away from home before, who are also, we have a lot of teachers who are practicing same-sex lifestyles, a gay lifestyle. And so for them, the performance atmosphere is very prone towards a lot of drinking and a lot of promiscuity. And so for me, it was, I think that, you know, having this view of interacting in the pro-life work and seeing, you know, the consequences of our sexuality, the consequences of kind of the degradation of the human person with the contraception, abortion, homosexuality, even sexually transmitted diseases, which we don't talk a lot about, kind of seeing, you know, there's something more, there's something special about me, and I'm not just meant to sleep with anyone. And of course, it's something that's tempting when you feel very isolated from that same group of people who are your friends. You know, you, especially as a young woman in high school, you want to maybe identify with the attention you receive from a young man. And for me, it was really, at the end of the day, clinging to my faith, clinging to fighting for something. For example, and I started sidewalk counseling at 13 years old, working in the pro-life movement, helping teach what abortion is and how we can talk about it from a woman's perspective in particular. And that's really become a passion of mine, but it's because I lived in that culture with young women who were facing that, with young women at 15 who planned to have a dance career and who would find themselves pregnant, who struggled with anorexia and bulimia. Again, I think at the end of the day for me, it was recognizing what was an objectifying attitude towards the person and what wasn't. And that, yes, you can reason to that, but you also have an element of faith to understand who am I, what am I made for, and what's my worth.
Well, you
She's
know,
adorable.
She is
What a sweetheart.
And, you know, I know her mom, Louisa, too, for many years. Father Pavone and I made several trips out to the San Bernardino area. That's where the family was originally from. And they had us come out to do a lot of different events. And her mother, like she said, homeschooled those children, but they would go out to the abortion mill and they would pray the rosary there. They would do sidewalk counseling. And you heard how she started then doing the sidewalk counseling at 13. You know, and even though she was homeschooled, she did have friends who were in the neighborhood who fell away, you know, basically using drugs and having sex. But because her family it was her family who had such a strong, you know, the education at home was so strong that she had that strength to resist that. And then she saw the bad things happening to her friends that were going down that road, coming drunk from parties and getting into trouble. And she would say like, I don't want to be like that. That's not for me. And I thought it was also wonderful that when she danced for the ballet, like she said, dancing also kept her busy. Again, going back to keeping your children in good, wholesome activities. So she danced ballet, and then one summer her mother sends her all the way out by herself to dance with the Russian ballet, you know, out in Washington D.C. And like she said, again, thrown in with other people that were, again, partying, sleeping with each other, drinking, and then she said, you know what? I don't want any part of that.
And I speak to so many moms every week that want to protect their children from, especially the culture of death and seeing the promiscuity, how they do it. Well, in this culture, it's extremely difficult. But first and foremost, the parents have to be people of faith, and they have to set an example. So I think it's beautiful how she remarks that being in the pro-life movement, and being so active, so young, and seeing her mother involved and understanding the issues. And she saw, like when she was in front of the abortion clinic, saw girls going in there and saying, what leads them to get to the point where they're going to take the life of their child? It's because of what came before. So it helped her to be chaste because she's fighting, you know, these things, and she's involved in her, and she has an understanding. So if you want to keep your child in the faith and you want them to be chaste, get them involved in these wonderful activities. The pro-life movement is a perfect example because you have something to fight for. Young people want something to fight for, something to be a part of. And this is something that I believe was key in keeping that family, you know, protected, and her being the young woman that she is today. She's absolutely remarkable.
I like the fact that she said she saw her mother doing these things at a very young age, and that had a huge impact on her. And her mother was out there, her mother was working, she was in the culture, she was involved, she was making a difference. So she didn't have this impression that, not that there is anything to diminish a mom staying home, but she saw both sides of the equation. She saw a mother who cared about her at home, but she also saw her mother out there in the world making a difference.
She did.
Yeah.
And again, you know, the activities with the pro-life movement and that whole knowledge, like you just said, Astrid, well, she saw women going in pregnant, young girls, and then she makes that connection. Oh, that's what happens, see, because if you sleep around, like some of her friends were doing, that she distanced herself from, this is what this is like the answer to that. When their contraception fails, they go off and have abortions. And she was like, there's no way I want any part of that. So it helped, I think, strengthen her to stay strong. And, you know, she said she had to lose some of her friends. She had to choose different people to associate with.
It's got to be a balance, though, I wonder, because sometimes kids can feel overwhelmed. You know, we've heard stories about some children who've been homeschooled and haven't been exposed to anything out there in the world. And then when they go away, as opposed to having the positive reaction that she did in terms of knowing what to do and what not to do and recognizing this is bad, some of the kids literally just going off the deep end because they've never been exposed to anything.
Well, that's it. There has to be a balance between keeping them too sheltered and having them just flung out there and letting them exposed to everything and doing whatever. So there's always a balance. And whether you're homeschooled or, like we said in other episodes, public school, Catholic school, the bottom line is, as a mother, as a father, especially the dads have to step up for the young girls. They have to be Prince Charming to their daughters, you know, with a positive role model and show within the marriage of the mom and dad as an example. Then the daughter sees, that's how a man should treat a woman.
And spend time with their daughters. We have a daddy-daughter dance at our parish every year.
Very
important. It's so adorable. And they all get dressed up, and the men wear the corsages and the boutonnieres, and they give their daughters corsages, and it's just so sweet. And that bonding that takes place is really important. Well, I think we have to take a break, and we come back. We'll have more discussion on how to be in the world and not of the world, and we'll hear more from this amazing young lady who's already making a difference in the world. Thanks for watching The Catholic View. We'll be right back. Thanks for watching The Catholic View for Women. In this episode, we're talking about how to be in the world but not of the world. And I really enjoyed that interview with Timmerie. Delightful.
right.
And she's already faced a number of challenges and she's handled them quite
She
well.
has. And it even shows what she majored in college. I mean, she went through and she's majoring in bioethics, and she got a master's in bioethics. And I actually was talking to her just a few weeks ago, and she said, well, Janet, I know you go to Rome a lot and you have an apartment over there, Priest for Life, and I'm considering maybe of going on for a doctorate in bioethics, and maybe I'll go to Rome for studies. So this girl is just amazing in that she goes, because I'm going to really talk about the culture of death and really fight against that.
How old is she again?
She's like
mid-20s,
Oh my
early
gosh.
20s.
I was so
she
not
goes,
there when
I
I was
have
in
to
my
now
mid-20s.
get a doctorate in bioethics so I can be on the cutting edge to really give the best arguments and educate people. I mean, she is just so on fire.
Bless her
So
heart.
when Astrid and I were talking to her, I said, okay, Timmerie, I wish I could just bottle you and bring you all over for people to see how wonderful you are. But if you could speak to moms and to young people, what advice do you give, like in a nutshell, because everyone's so afraid of this over-sexualized world we're in. So let's see what she had to say about Timmerie's advice on how to protect ourselves from this over-sexualized world, okay?
I think women today, especially, I think surprisingly starting as young as middle school, we're in an over-sexualized culture. Being a Catholic speaker, I work a lot with middle school girls, and it's shocking that as young as 12 years old, you bring up feminism, and young women are like, yes, you're talking about me. And for me, I realized that we need to talk more to women. You know, we have, from a young age, our sexuality is a central part of who we are. But these magazines, you've got 17 magazine, you have Cosmopolitan, you've got all of these different magazines that are reaching out to you saying, okay, women, you can get pregnant, you have sexual desires, you have your hormones, everything. You might mess up, you can have an abortion. And I think that sometimes we need to pull back and go, okay, if they're the only people saying, okay, this is women, we stand for feminism, I think we need to take back the term feminism in a sense. Like, we need to talk to young women from a young age, 12 and 13, saying feminism is seeing human dignity in the individual, understanding that we're made male and female. Our biochemical makeup points to that, and that as women, we have the ability to carry children. Fertility is a natural part of female health. And if we can start to help girls from a young age understand that and start to discuss, well, why do women have abortions? What happens? Well, what happened to that girl at 15 who's been sleeping with her boyfriend for the last 2 years? Or really just, has father issues, or has just self-identity problems? How can we reach that person? Is she really finding an answer in a magazine that talks about sexual exploitation? Or is she finding an answer and discovering who she is and how she can interact with people of the opposite sex in a way that doesn't degrade her just based on her body? I always ask people today, I saw a girl the other day walking past me at the mall, and her butt cheeks were hanging out of her shorts. And I just asked him, when I said, I'm with my friend, I said, does she know that her butt cheeks are showing? And I said, does she know? Does her mom know? Her mom's walking with her. And it might sound so silly because it's so common living here in Southern California. But I think the reality is that women are saying, look at me, pay attention to me, but they're saying it for the wrong reasons. And we need to help women, young women, again, 12 and 13 years old and up, understand that you can say, look at me, but as women, we're called to be beautiful. John Paul II quoted Dostoevsky, the Russian author, saying, beauty will save the world. And it doesn't make us, I think, as women feel very nice when we think, oh, okay, so all the pretty ladies are going to save the world. No, it's an inner reality of saying, no, don't just look at my physical body and say that's who I am. Look at the inner reality in the person of who I am.
It's just astonishing just to hear her speak. And I think 3 things that are just key in the formation of a young woman like that, which is, thank God for it, is number 1, her parents were so involved and she was homeschooled, which is a beautiful choice. In California, especially today, things are getting much, much worse. So parents just discerning, many are choosing with a lot of sacrifice, but thankfully, to homeschool. Number 2, she went to an authentically Catholic college. There aren't many. I mean, you have to be careful. There's so many that are betraying their Catholic identity. So if you want to find out which ones are authentically Catholic, Cardinal Newman Society.
We had it in the last episode.
.org is
Excellent
important.
organization. Yep.
She went to John Paul the Great University in San Diego, so she got a tremendous formation. You can just tell by listening to her. And the joy, she believes it, she lives it. And I would say number 3, really important, is that we have to teach our young people not only to believe in these values and our faith, but also to be leaders. Because what you notice about speaking to her, she's excited about learning more and teaching young women. She sees the culture, and she doesn't feel afraid of it. She's like, let me go out there. And I see these girls dressed immodestly. I know that they're hungry for love, and they're missing something. I want to share with them what I learned, what the truth about their dignity. So I would say those 3 things: parents' role, which is crucial, then the education, which is key, so that we can intellectually battle the lies of the culture, and then to understand that we have to be leaders, which really is a word for apostles. We're all called to be disciples in the world, and she is living that. And she's so young, but she already has these tremendous visions for what she wants to do. And she's a speaker. She's doing this, and she's speaking to young women. And when you meet her, she's a happy, joyful
she's happy,
woman.
joyful.
And I loved
and
what she
free.
said about the feminism point, because
Right.
she said when young girls are exposed to feminism, it's not the right kind of feminism.
it's
it's
not.
radical feminism that Sue Ellen Browder talked about in our previous episodes.
But it's what we're taught in the
It's
schools.
what we're taught in the schools.
Right.
But we have the new feminism, which John Paul II gave us in Evangelium Vitae and Emilia Stigmatatum, and to really recognize who we are in Christ, that we are created equal in the eyes of God.
Who
right?
liberates
Male and
women?
female.
Who liberates women? It's
Jesus.
such- yes, absolutely.
The biggest liberator, our greatest fan, as I said in my book, Extreme Makeover. Shameless plug. But no, I mean, what she's talking about is new feminism and how it's needed. And I love the image that she said, you know, what did her mom see about that girl who was walking through the mall who was immodestly dressed? Was her mother paying attention?
Right.
Did her mother know when she left the house, you know, dressing like that, immodestly? And going back to what you said earlier, you have got to be involved in your kids' lives.
Well, I mean, with my 3 daughters, you know, if they wanted to buy something that I didn't approve, I said, no, you're not going to buy that. You're not wearing that, not while you're living under my roof. Or, you know, you sometimes have to put down rules and standards. It's okay
I tried
to
to
say
sneak
no.
out of the house once in high school, my freshman year of high school, and I was starting to push the envelope. I know it's a shock.
Yes.
And I walked into my parents' bedroom. They were still sleeping, and they had one of those big mirrors. And I had like a skimpy tee on, and the jeans were fine, but the tee was meant to be worn under something.
Right.
And I didn't think they were paying attention. My father shot out of bed so quickly, and he was a very much laid back, not like my mother. My mother's like me; she's very outgoing. But he said, "You get in there, young lady, and you are not going to school like that." Okay, well, I tried, but that's what has
His
to be
role
done.
is to protect
exactly.
you.
Exactly.
And we should. And I just want to mention my pastor after the decision of the Supreme Court, Obergefell decision, which basically tried to redefine marriage by saying that 2 women can get married. You know, no big deal. Realizing that, he said, you know, he's speaking to the congregation, to the parishioner, saying, you might want to consider seriously to homeschool, because in California in particular, it has gotten so bad. It's the norm now to teach what Planned Parenthood's agenda is, and now with
Transgender
trying to
push and
change the
everything,
meaning
yeah,
of absolutely
yeah.
the restrooms now. Men can walk into the women's restroom. So to protect your child, you might want to seriously consider homeschooling your child. No matter what the sacrifice is, it's worth it.
Well, great discussion, and unfortunately, we're already almost out of time. But let's get to the homework, because these are good resources for
Well,
folks.
first, I just want to point out our patroness here on the set, the Kitchen Madonna, available at the EWTN Religious Catalog. Beautiful symbolism. Of course, the kettle to keep us nourished, both in body and our spirit, our soul, spiritually. The broom keeps our house clean, but also us clean in our thoughts and words and actions. And finally, her keys there to, of course, keep the house safe, but also Mary will show us how to unlock the keys to the kingdom and to have a better relationship with her son, Jesus Christ. Beautiful. I know we have her in our homes and available at the Religious Catalog. Of course, for our homework, we want to point out a beautiful website, which is homeschoolconnections.com. So if you're considering, like Astrid said, homeschooling, want to know more about it, that's a great website to go to. And of course, shop at the EWTN Religious Catalog to get great resources for Catholics, including books, DVDs, rosaries, and so much more. And of course, number 3, visit our website, thecatholicviewforwomen.com, for more information. And also, you can sign up there for our monthly newsletter that we send to you via email. And of course, if you're on Facebook, like us on Facebook.
Yep. Also, a great resources on the EWTN religious catalog for families and with children of all ages that can get you involved in activities in the home. Thanks for watching The Catholic View for Women. For Janet Morana, Astrid Bennett Gutierrez, I'm Teresa Tomeo, and we'll see you next time right here on EWTN.